right, it looks like it's recording now.
All right, guys, so we're going to be doing chapter 21, page 482. We got global questions and command of evidence questions. So, global questions. Global questions require you to both identify explicit and determine implicit central ideas or themes in text. If you pay attention to the big picture, the author's central idea and purpose, while reading the SAT reading passages, you will be able to answer global questions with little to no rereading of the passage. To fully understand the central ideas and themes of a passage, you must synthesize the different points the author makes with his or her thesis statement, which you should underline with passage mapping. So, again, we have you guys passage map. Hopefully you guys are doing the homework, practicing that. Remember, one of the reasons why we have you passage map is for global questions. That way you don't have to reread them. Because I know how much you guys like to reread those passages over and over and over again, right? Which I know you guys do, obviously. But by doing the passage map, it reduces the amount of time you would have to reread. Hopefully, eventually, where you don't have to reread the passage at all, once you guys get to practice it. And then the answers will be there in the passage map. So that's one of the reasons why we have you do it. I know you guys are at the point where you're not quite there yet as being experts at passage mapping, but hopefully with enough practice that'll happen. And again, where do we get the practice from? From the Yes, thank you. We're getting there. We're getting there. All right, Samir. Welcome. All right. So, global questions may also ask you to choose a correct summary of the passage as a whole or key information and ideas within the passage. When presented with this type of global question, you can use your passage map, which is essentially a brief summary of what you have read. All right, and then we have this little note here on test day. The italicized portion at the beginning of an SAT reading passage can be helpful in determining the author's central ideas and themes. Make sure you take the time on test day to read this information. It orients you to the passage. We're on page 482.
42?
482. You're welcome. So yeah, again, the passage map. Thank you. Okay, and then you can recognize global questions because they typically do not reference line numbers or even individual paragraphs. They usually ask about the author's entire tone, maybe, or the main idea of the passage. They even say the passage, right? So, a whole bunch of different things that they phrase it as. To confidently answer global questions, you need to not only identify the central idea or theme of the passage, but also avoid choosing answers that summarize secondary or supplementary points. So this happens a lot. Within the passage, say they're talking about, I don't know, the school and how this school was built. They're talking about the people who came up with the architecture, then the next, or the idea or the reason. All of a sudden, they talk a little bit about maybe some of the problems that they ran into in creating this school. You know, budget cuts or unexpected snow or whatever it might be, and it seems like the whole thing was actually about problems that they ran into when building this school. That would actually be a subcategory or subtopic of the entire passage. The entire passage was about the school itself and its building. The problems that it ran into are only a small part of it. So you have to be careful because sometimes they talk about one or two paragraphs of this and it seems like that's what they were actually talking about, but it wasn't. So that happens a lot. Be careful. Again, with your passage map, you'll avoid something like that. All right, and do note that there is a slight difference between nonfiction and fiction passages. Science and history, social studies passages are nonfiction and will have a definite central idea and thesis statement. U.S. and world literature passages are fiction and will have a central theme but no thesis statement. So yeah, it's easier to find what the main idea of the passage was for the history ones and the science ones. Why? Because it's an essay or paper that was written in a specific order. So usually you'll find the main idea in the first paragraph for those types of passages. However, as you move along, for the literature ones, you don't know where the central theme is. It could be anywhere because it's small. They took out random pages from a book or a story or something like that. We're on page 482. So depending on what they're doing, it'll be all over the place. So the passage map is very essential to finding the central theme when it comes to the literature ones. Okay, and let's see here. Remember, history and social studies and science passages on the SAT reading test are just well-written essays or article excerpts. You can normally find the thesis statement of a well-known piece at the end of the introductory paragraph. So yeah, it'll probably be towards the end of the first paragraph or the intro. Also, again, remember the italicized will also help you with that. Next up, we have command of evidence questions. These will probably be the toughest questions you'll run into on the SAT on the reading test. Just like the math test questions, where we had the one question depended on the previous questions, the same goes for these questions, the command of evidence questions. A command of evidence question relies on your answer to the question that precedes it. These questions require you to identify the portion of the text that provides the best evidence for the conclusion you reach when selecting your answer to the previous question. Kaplan's strategy for command and evidence questions involves retracing your steps. That is, you must return to the previous question to ensure you answer the command of evidence questions correctly. The question preceding command of evidence question can be any other question type. Meaning that if you don't get that first question right, there's a good chance you will not get the second question or the command of evidence question correct. You need to be able to answer the first one. So make sure you take the time. You might have to spend a little extra time on the first one to make sure you get that right. So that way you'll get that second one right. So hopefully you did. If you can't get the first one, then you might have to resort to guessing. Remember to guess on, or fill out, I should say, not guess on all, but fill out all the answer choices or all the questions out on the SAT. You do not receive a wrong answer penalty, so make sure you fill it all out with either your answer or a guess. All right, and to answer command of evidence questions effectively and correctly, employ the following Kaplan strategy. Step 1. When you see a question ask you to choose the best evidence to support your answer to the previous question, review how you selected the answer. So you have to remember, wait, how did I get to that answer? And it might be something as simple as reading around the lines, right? You went back, they gave you a line reference, you read around it, and the answer was in there. Or it could be something like your passage map, or something you underlined, circled, whatever it might be. Avoid answers that provide evidence for incorrect answers to the previous question. Now, obviously, you need to have made sure you got the previous question correct, right? Or confident that you got it correct. And then you can do this one. And the correct answer will support why the previous question's answer is correct. And we have an expert tip here. You can recognize command and evidence questions easily. The question stem usually reads, which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? Furthermore, the answer choices are always line numbers with parentheses containing the first and last words of the intended selection. Answer choices are listed in order they appear in the passage. So yeah, it's pretty obvious because they only have 2 words, a bunch of dots in the middle, and then parentheses, and then the line references as well. So you should be able to easily recognize the command of evidence questions. Okay, let's keep going. Command of evidence questions ask that you cite the textual evidence that best supports a given claim or point. That given claim or point will be the correct answer choice into the previous question. Then you'll choose one of 4 excerpts from the passage as best evidence support for that answer. Now where that comes, well, that's the tricky part. Sometimes it's before the actual question from before. So the question before asks you to go to line 32. The evidence might show up before that or after that. So you can't just assume it'll come after that. I had a couple of students do that. There is a chance, just like there's a chance to come after, it'll come out before as well. So make sure you go through all the different answer choices, or realize where it should be coming up thanks to your passage map or from your readings. Now the first step to approach a command of evidence question is to make sure you answer the previous question, no matter its type. Yeah, so the type of question you'll run into for the previous one can be anything. It could be a global question, inference question, detailed question. Could be anything, so make sure you answer that correctly. If you answer the question preceding the command of evidence question incorrectly, you have a smaller chance of selecting the correct answer. And remember, there is no wrong answer penalty on the SAT, so even if you have no idea how to approach a question, take your best guess and move on. Remember, try to eliminate any that you feel is incorrect and then go from there. All right, so now we have an example from a literature passage on the next page. Now, as you can see, as previous passages, this one has been mapped out already for you. But I will stop along the way from time to time asking about certain things as to maybe why it was underlined or why it was mentioned. All right, so looks like the following is an excerpt from Frederick Douglass's autobiographical narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave. Okay, volunteers to read. All right, sweet.
His mistress had been severely reprimanded by her husband for helping Frederick Douglass learn to read. After all, the husband admonished giving a slave the knowledge to read was like giving the slave access to thinking. He or she was human. If you give the slave an inch, they will take the eye.
Okay. So, what do you guys notice about this first paragraph? Yeah, it's all italicized except for, yeah, the last word, L. Anyone know what the saying means? Because I really don't know what they mean by if you give them an inch, they'll take an L. No? Nobody?
Take it all.
Well, that's what I thought too, but then it says L, so I'm wondering if maybe,
Like get greedy.
oh, maybe that's what they meant. L is for all, but because of the accent, the southern accent maybe, it sounded like L. I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, notice how the whole thing is italicized. Well, why did they do that? So that's something you should be wondering. Remember, you want to ask yourself why questions. Why did the author have that first paragraph italicized? Hopefully we can figure that out by looking at the next paragraph. All right, volunteers to read.
Oh, I know why.
Oh, what's that, Matt?
I think I know why.
Why?
Because this was like from like third person point of view.
Good, yeah. If you if you start reading a little bit of the next paragraph, you'll notice that it switches point of views. It goes from third person to first person. So yeah, that's probably the big reason as to why they went from italicized or he went from italicized to normal face font. All right, volunteers to read this next paragraph.
My mistress was, as I have said, kind and tender-hearted, and in the simplicity of her soul she commenced. When I first went to live with her to treat me as she supposed one human being ought to treat another, in entertaining upon the duties of a slaveholder, she did not seem to perceive that I sustained to her the relation of a mere chattel, and that for her to treat me as a human being was not only wrong but dangerously so. Slavery proved as injurious to her as it did to me.
Okay, you can stop there because this paragraph's ridiculously long. So far, if you guys note the side notes that the passage mapper put down, you have Mrs. Helpful, FD Red. Now, obviously, FD stands for Frederick Douglass, and Mrs. stands for the mistress, right? So we have that, and then Mr. equals slaves not human. What does that mean?
It means that the mister that he's talking about, as the husband of mistress, he doesn't view slaves as humans.
Yeah, exactly. So you have the wife who thinks of slaves as people, right? It says Mrs. Helpful. So she actually helped Frederick Douglass read. So she doesn't have that same opinion as him. But what happens? Right where we stop, it says what?
It says that by doing so, by helping Frederick Douglass, she puts herself in harm's way.
Not as harm,
Well, like-
but
Like,
something happened to her, it looks, right? So far, it seems like something happened because something changed or something. So yeah, it looks like it affected her as well somehow. So let's find out how. All right, volunteers to read. Let's have the next person read up to line. Let's see here. I guess line 28. Precepts. Volunteers. All right. Go ahead, Nick.
Slavery proved as dangerous to her as it did to me. When I went there, she was a joyous, born and tender-hearted woman. There was no sorrow or suffering for which she had not attained. She had bread for the hungry, clothes for the naked, and comfort for every mourner that came within reach. Slavery soon proved its first step in her downward course was in the seasoning to instruction. She now commenced to practice her husband's precepts. She
Okay,
found-
you can stop there. All right, so what happened? Looks like, what changed? So what did slavery do to the mistress?
It made it hard.
Yeah, it made her heart hard, right? It even says so. Her tender heart became stone. It's underlined there, right? So that's probably why the expert passage mapper underlined that, because now we have what exactly happened to her. She was this loving, pious, kind-hearted woman, and then she changed. She became someone with a stone heart, right? And lost, her tiger-like fierceness and everything, right? And became one of tiger-like fierceness. And once that happened, what happened? It says the first step, what? Right after that, it says the first step in her downward course was that she stopped teaching him how to read. So it looks like what's happening to her. She's becoming more and more like
Her husband.
yeah, her husband or the mister, right? So it looks like she's changing her views here. All right, volunteers to read the rest of this paragraph. All right, come on.
She was not satisfied with simply doing as well as he had commanded. She seemed anxious to do better. Nothing seemed to make her more angry than to see me with a newspaper. She seemed to think that here lay the danger. I had her rush at me with a face made all up of fury and stabbed me a newspaper in a manner that fully revealed her apprehension. She was an apt woman, and a little experience soon demonstrated her satisfaction that education and slavery were incompatible with each other.
All right. So not only did she become more and more like her husband, but according to this passage, she actually became what?
Like just as bad as her.
Yeah, just as bad as him, if not maybe a little worse, because she seemed like, it says here, Frederick Douglass felt like she had something to prove, so if she saw him with a newspaper, she came after him and everything, right? So, looks like she got a bit worse in some ways. Hey, here, and if you notice the passage mapping, yeah, it says Mrs. Became as bad as Mr., right? So, if not worse. All right, next paragraph. Volunteers to read.
From this time, I was most narrowly watched. If I was in a separate room for any considerable length of time, I was sure to be suspected of having a book, and was at once called to give an account of myself. All this, however, was too late. The first step had been taken. Mistress, in teaching me the alphabet, have given me an inch, and no precaution could prevent me from taking it out.
All right, and what do you guys notice here?
L is italicized.
Yeah, now L is italicized. Before it wasn't, and now it is. So it's kind of funny how they did that. So just something to note of. And it looks like he's just saying, hey, I was taught the alphabet, and now I can go on from there. Okay, next paragraph. I'll have you stop at line 62, where it says in our neighborhood, before the online portion. Yes, let's do that. Volunteers? All right.
So the plan which I adopted, and the one by which I was not most successful, was that of making friends of all the white children whom I met in the street. As many of these as I could, I converted into teachers. With their kindly aid obtained at different times and in different places, I finally succeeded in learning to read. When I was sent on errands, I always took my book with me, and by going one apart of my errand quickly, I found time to get lessons for my return. I used also to carry bread with me, enough of which was always in the house, and to which I was always welcome, for I was much better off in this regard than many of the poor white children in my neighborhood.
All right, you can stop there. All right, so what did Frederick Douglass do here?
He would find the white kids in the street and do his errands for her so that he could teach them how to read.
Yeah, basically you got the kids, the neighborhood kids, to help them learn how to read, right? And not only that, it seems like he bribed them with bread, of all things. He was actually off better in that regard to them. He was actually fed compared to some of the poor white kids without an education. So there you go. So if you notice on the side here, it says friends, arrow, teachers, arrow, full literacy. So remember, for your passage map, it does not matter how you write it. All that matters is that you understand it. So it looks like the passage master here is saying, hey, he found friends, made those friends into teachers, and because of that, the teachers, these friends who ended up becoming his teachers as well, ended up giving him full literacy. Okay, so yeah, instead of writing all that, they just did friends, arrow, teachers, arrow, full literacy. Yeah, much shorter to write it that way than what I just said. Again, as long as you understand it, that's all that matters. Okay, volunteers to finish this up. No volunteers? Alright. Kimberly.
This bread I used to bestow upon the hungry little urchins who in return would give me that more valuable bread of knowledge. I am strongly tempted to give the names of 2 or 3 of those children as a testimonial of the gratitude and affection I bear them. But prejudice forbids. Not that it would injure me, but it might embarrass them. For it is almost an unpardonable offense to teach slaves to read in this Christian country. I used to talk this matter of slavery over with them. I would sometimes say to them, I wish I could be as free as they would be when they got to be men. This used to trouble them. They would express for me the lifeless sympathy, and console me with the hopes that some spring would occur by which I might be free.
Okay, so towards the end, what's going on here? Seems that the kids are what?
They're kind of sympathizing for Frederick. They want to be free.
Yeah, it looks like they aren't so keen on the whole slavery thing. So kind of gives you hope, right, towards the end. So that's good. And yeah, on the side here it says anti-slavery sentiment. So obviously they didn't feel the same way about slavery, but otherwise they probably wouldn't have helped Frederick Douglass learn how to read to begin with, right? So you see some of that there. All right, and now we have some questions. Again, as always, try not to look at the answers at the bottom, all right, on the right side. If you can, try to cover it up. And let's take a look. We have question number 1. The main purpose of the passage is to, what was the whole point of this passage?
Describe his life, how to read.
Was that?
Well, just really talked about how to learn how to read.
Yeah, basically his struggle on how to read, right? Basically his struggle on how to read. So, with that in mind now, we can go to the answer choices, and we go with answer choice
D.
Yeah, answer choice D as in dog is the best one. Describe the risks Douglass willingly took to learn to read. Right? He probably he risked his friends because they weren't supposed to teach him, right? But he also risked himself because the Mr. and Mrs. did not want him to read. Okay, and now we have question number 2. And if you look at the next page, we have question number 3. Question number 3 is a command of evidence question. So that means question number 2 has to be correct if we were to have a good chance of answering question number 3 correctly. So let's take a look at question number 2. The statement in lines 15 through 16, slavery proved to me, suggests that, all right, so they give us the specific line references, 15 through 16. Remember, whenever they give you a specific line reference, you want to read the sentence before, including, and after, so you get the proper context. So why don't you go ahead and do that right now? So what does that statement suggest? So what does that statement suggest?
The mistress changed.
Yeah, the mistress changed, right? The slavery changed her, and we know how. It made her cold-hearted and everything like that. So the best answer that fits that prediction is answer choice. The answer choice B as in boy is correct. Owning slaves destroyed the mistress' admirable human qualities.
If it didn't say equally, would they be right? Like if it phrased it differently?
The mistress and Douglass suffered equally from the situation. Yeah, if it didn't say equally, I would say yeah. But to say equally, there's nothing there that shows that, right? We also, if they were to say Douglass suffered more, we can't say that for sure either because nothing in there says that he actually
So if
suffered
it's
more.
like both Douglas and the mistress suffered, then that'd be right.
Then yeah, that would probably be a good. That'd be a good answer, but not the best one, because it's still,
Yeah.
that line still doesn't suggest that, whatever, the line suggests that she got changed, through slavery, not him. So, yeah, it would be a little bit better, but Anne Joyce B would still be correct because of the way it says suggest. So if they were asking about something else, then yeah, maybe, but yeah, because it says equally, you can't say that for sure, more or less either, so. All right. And now, as I said, question number 3 is a command of evidence question. So we got question number 2 correct, so that means we have a pretty good chance of getting question number 3 correct now, or at least a better than if we didn't get number 2 correct. All right, so it says, which choice provides the best evidence for the answer in the previous question? So what lines proves that, hey, she changed, or slavery changed her? So you want to go back, they give you the different line references. They have 11 through 15, 23 through 25, 41 through 44, and 53 through 55. Matt? What's that? Answer choice A, lines, let's take a look. Line 11 through 15. Entering upon duties of slave owner, she did not seem to perceive that I sustained. No, not quite. That doesn't really show that she changed, right? We want to show what evidence showed that she changed. Yeah, actually, B does that, right? Because it says the tender heart became stone. With the lamb-like disposition gave way to one of tiger-like defiance, right? Fierceness, sorry, not defiance, fierceness. So it looks like that's where she ended up changing. Good job. Okay, and now we have a passage here. On this next page, it looks like it says the following is challenges facing a population of trees and possible solutions. Now, this one's a little different in that the entire passage has not been mapped out for you. So what I want you guys to do is read through this. Don't forget to read the passage map that the expert mapper already did. But now, if you notice paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, starting at paragraph 4, you have to start writing your own passage map. All right, so why don't you guys go ahead and do that right now, and then we'll go over the passage map together.